Today, we are talking leadership. We're talking fierce conversations. We're talking wealth building. We're talking 10X is greater than 2X. And I'm with one of the most influential women in all of Keller Williams, actually one of the most influential people. Welcome to the Upside podcast. I am your host, Theresa Flood, where we help you get unstuck in life and business by elevating your thinking and provoking meaningful change, always from the inside out. Linda McKissack.
Oh, thank you.
What an honor. I am
Pleasure.
so happy to be here with you today.
Well, thank you.
And we're going to hear your story, but if people don't know who you are, you have such an impressive resume. You've been with Keller Williams for a long time. You've been a top mega agent. You own 2 regions of our company, South Valley, Ohio Valley. What am I saying?
Ohio Valley.
Ohio Valley, Oklahoma. You own a local market center here in Denton, Texas. You're author of the book Hold on holding real estate investment properties. And we're going to just go through your whole story because you are truly, you have done it yourself. And what I so admire about you is that you are raising so many other people up around you and empowering leaders. And that's what's so impressive about your journey.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's just hear your story, Linda. Like, tell us about you. Tell us about Jimmy and the story.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say everybody has a story. And you're given your story, I think, for a reason, somewhere down the line to serve other people who need your story, right? So,
Good.
And I always say the worst thing that ever happens to you can usually wind up being the best thing that ever happened to you if you give it long enough and you get over it and you get through it and
Right.
live through it.
Right.
And you learn what you need to learn from it. And so that's really how our journey began. I was in my mid-20s. I always like to say I didn't even know what the word economy meant.
Okay.
Is it good or bad? But if you lived in Texas, Texas had the worst economic downturn it's ever had or ever had since. And like I said, it was called like what I call a gradually and suddenly. Literally, we went to bed one night, the world seemed okay. The next day we got up and we were in a panic. And we were in a panic because we had to sell a business in Dallas that we thought we were going to make it big.
Wow.
For $600,000 less than what we owed against it. Like I said, I'm pretty naive at the time. I've never made more than minimum wage. A lot of fear and anger going on in our house through that because I didn't know how to make that kind of money. I didn't even know that kind of money was available. And Jimmy's panicking because he's never been in that situation.
Yeah.
But I always say the reason it was great is because in life, you're either pushed into a situation that causes you to set a big 10X goal or you later learn that it's actually a tool to set a 10X big goal, right? And for us, it pushed us into doing that. All of a sudden, we're in a really bad situation and no idea how to get out of it. I always like to say you're dropped into a 10-foot hole and you only know how to jump 2 feet high. You got to learn real fast. How do I jump higher? And so we began to read books. We began to find people who knew what do you do in a situation like that? And so I always say that we learned a lot because we had to learn and we had to learn fast. And one of the best things that we learned that is the people that don't go through those situations or that are in better situations when life is giving us a gradually and suddenly, which it will, if you live long enough, you'll get many of them, is wealthy people. And so we just said, who are wealthy people and why are they wealthy and we're not? And what do we have to do to be wealthy? And so I think without that situation, we would have never forced ourselves to learn the difference between cash flow and wealth. I mean, literally, honestly, Jimmy looked very successful on the outside.
Yeah.
Until an outside condition changed every bit of that. So
Which is
it
such a
just kind of
vulnerable,
woke us up.
scary place to be.
Oh, very scary. And I always say under anger is fear. And we're both fearful for different reasons. I was fearful because I'm the kind of person that when there's a problem, I'm going to step up and try to solve it. And I was terrified that I would not know how to solve it. And he was fearful because he had never had a failure like that ever. And so that was his first one to ever go through.
So what did you learn the biggest difference was between wealthy people and maybe not poor people, but successful people that weren't wealthy?
Yeah. Well, I learned that we took our cash flow for granted. We took the success that we had and we thought we would always have that. And then we also didn't realize that, you know, we to be wealthy, you had to do certain things with that cash flow when you had it so that it could work for you and do those kind of things. So the number one thing we learned, the difference between where we were at the time, which were considered successful in the restaurant and nightclub business, but not in the form of prepared for those kind of situations, was that you needed to buy either real estate, own businesses, or stocks. And honestly, we just got out of a business, so that didn't sound good at all.
Yeah.
Plus, we didn't have any money or capital to go start a business. Stocks were something we were not interested in learning. And so if you don't really want to learn something, you're going to be a speculator in it. You're not really truly an investor. So that wasn't an option. But Jimmy's idea, he had a mentor when he was like 12 years old that would pick him up. His dad was never around. So the mentor would pick him up, take him to his Pee Wee football games and kind of mentor him over the years. And Jim, at that time, under pressure is when you start looking for pathways and answers that you didn't have before. And one of them that he remembered was this guy said, if you want to make a lot of money, real estate is the way to do it. Now, we laugh today because that guy meant buy some, build some, develop some. He didn't mean, get a young, naive wife and get her to sell some.
Right.
However, it was a good plan because there was something about real estate that fits who I am. I'm really all about freedom and no one deciding how much I'm worth, me getting to decide that. So there was just enough components in it, to be honest with you, Theresa, that it was a good fit for us to start back to build cash flow, but it wasn't going to solve the end problem that we had found ourselves in. So the difference would be, okay, if I'm in real estate, surely I can figure out how to buy some.
So let's talk a little bit about starting in real estate. So that was how you were going to create the capital to get yourself out of the hole. That was kind of the big plan to start out. So tell us a little bit about starting a real estate business and then how you connected with Gary Keller, who I know that all that relationship and conversations really changed the course of your life in so many ways. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my first year I only made $3,000 gross. Jimmy said, this is super gross because I spent $15,000 for you to make $3,000. It's not what I had.
That's not the math we're looking for.
We're not headed, to pay off that $600,000 anytime soon. But honestly, Theresa, this is my 40th year in real estate. And for people who've been in that long, there was no education. There was no companies like Keller Williams. There was no training. And literally, you were given a desk, you were given a phone and say, good luck, you're on your own, And thank God an affiliate paid for me to go to a Mike Ferry seminar, which was, still had to travel for education because no one had it locally.
Wow.
But they paid for me to go to a seminar in Fort Worth.
Why do you think, that's just so fascinating. Why do you think that affiliate, because you weren't producing at the time.
Right.
What did they see in you that they said
I think
she's worth investing in?
I think they saw hard work and, maybe I was the new agents coming up and they didn't have any business. Yeah. They needed to bet on me. I don't know. But I don't know what they saw. And honestly, and many times in my life when someone has bet on me, when I look back now and I catch my team or myself saying, oh, they're not ready, I think, wow, was I ever ready, really? So I think they saw that I was trying really hard. Yeah. I was putting in the time. I was working hard. I was, door knocking. I was doing whatever I could do to try to figure this game out. Okay. And so they invested in me to go to this seminar. And at the seminar, really, Mike was there to sell you on Coming to the Desert in August. And so I just made a commitment with the girl that was from my office. We're going to go to that seminar. I don't know where we're going to get the money, but in August, we're going to go weather that heat and do this thing. And sure enough, by the time August came around, she went and did what we call back then, got a real job.
Right.
She couldn't handle it.
We still call it that.
Yeah, some people are doing that now. And so I just told Jimmy, I said, look, you're going to go with me. And he's thinking, oh boy, pina coladas by the pool. Yeah. Thinking, no, you're going to go to some of these classes I can't get to. We got to get some help here. And Tony DeCello was on the stage.
Wow.
And he had actually made $600,000 that year in commissions. And, the top producer in our area at that time was doing 2.75 million volume, not commissions, volumes. And I'm like, oh, we got to figure something out. It's not looking hopeful. But Tony had done $600,000 in commissions. And so literally we do what I tell people to do now. There's always a who that knows the how. You got to quit trying to figure out the how and just go find the who, and they'll help you. They'll tell you. And then you just got to do what they say. So we tacked him on break, and we went to every break with him. We took him to dinner. We rollerbladed. We'd never had a pair of rollerblades on, but we were willing to do anything. I always say we would have slept in his room on sleeping bags if he'd invited us. And I always say the story today is this is why relationships are so important, because he was so helpful, and we just went to work and started doing the things he told us. And then now we're business partners with him. We eventually brought him to Keller Williams, and I always like to tease and say now he sometimes calls and asks for our advice. So that you never know. You never know. And I'm just thankful, and I'm thankful for many people in my life who have gone before me. And if I can get in the proximity of them, I can figure out and ask them enough questions and do what they say to do.
So where did you learn that? Was that modeled for you at a young age, or where did you make that connection? Because I don't think that comes naturally to people.
Well, and I said this.
There's a humility to it.
Yeah, I said this the other day. Jim does not think first who. I always have to say to him, well, Jimmy, I know we're doing an RV park and we've never done one. Who do you know that has done one?
Yeah.
Who could we call? So I know it is now, Theresa, because back then, here's what I love about putting the pressure on yourself. I don't like the outside pressure, but if you can learn that a big goal and a big commitment creates a pressure in your brain and your mind to go to work to solve the problem, you won't try to solve it otherwise. And so I think from the pressure that we were under, it forced me to do things I wouldn't probably normally do. If I was very successful already, I might go, oh, I don't really want to bother him,
Sure.
But now I've learned it's part of the process of anything new that you want to try or do. Is one of the first questions I ask is two things: who knows how to do it, and then who can do it besides me? I've added an extra who in there.
Right. Okay, so you built a business at Keller Williams.
Yep.
And you had a really life-changing conversation with Gary Keller.
Yes.
That really changed the course of everything. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, Gary's philosophy was to go after the number one agent. And by this time, I'm number one.
And what year is this? Just
This
for
is
context.
probably 1980, late 80s probably.
So Keller Williams was brand new in Dallas.
Relatively new,
And
yes.
New all over.
Yes, new
But
all over.
new in Dallas.
But Gary had already come up with a model of who he thought would be the best fits for these opportunities. And they were top agents who had kept great relationships. Okay. And so actually it was a recruiter that Althea hired because she owned the North Texas region that found me in magazines, or I don't know if they could even look at the MLS back then and tell who was doing the most. And he started calling on me. And as he began to call on me, we would have meetings, and the company I was with was taking, I'd paid them $100,000 to be there that year and had no idea that I'd paid that much.
Wow.
And he just had enough conversations with me, and there were just enough cracks on the other side that I started listening and paying attention to who the company was. And so I joined Keller Williams with never meeting Gary Keller. And then we were there for about 4 years, and all of a sudden, and we took Keller Williams from dead last to number one. And all of a sudden, she decides she wants to sell. Sundance buying a bunch of companies who are number one. And so they roll into town and want to buy us. And she wants to sell. Because to be honest with you, in her defense, Denton was too small for a Keller Williams at that time. We didn't even have a team leader because you couldn't afford to pay one.
Yeah.
So, but there was enough great things in the model that me as a top agent, I always like to say I was at level 5 when I met Keller. But I didn't know I was at level 5 because he hadn't named it in his red book yet.
Okay, so tell everybody who maybe isn't familiar with the terminology, level 5 of the Millionaire Real Estate
Level
Agent
5 is where you have pretty much, you have buyer agents who are working with the buyers, you have assistants. You're pretty much probably only working with listings at this point. The only thing left for you to do is to turn your business over to someone else and start bringing other streams of income in.
So were you learning from somebody else the
Yes.
team building models at that time, or were you really just figuring it out as you went along?
Honestly, a lot of us top producers were still going to seminars now. I had switched from Mike Ferry to Howard Britton because I just hammering out the phones didn't fit for me. And I thought, gosh, Kleenex doesn't get up every day and call all the people with the snotty nose and say, get a box of Kleenex. They don't do it that way. So why do we think we have to do it that way? So for me, it didn't work. For other people, it might work. So I started looking at branding. How do you build a brand so well known that when people think of real estate, they think of you? And so we would all go to this conference every year and we'd learn from each other. And, we'd say, how are you getting your business? And they'd say, well, I'm running this ad, or and we'd just come back and do the things, right? So we were kind of all helping each other. No one person was killing it. We just would take an idea from each other. But we had never identified the many levels in real estate. We had just did what we needed to do out of necessity as our business were, growing.
Yeah.
We had to handle that and create, hire people and
We
develop
take
those
for
things.
granted, I think, now having models and systems that have been proven for so many years over time. And I think we forget sometimes that there were pioneers like you. I mean, you're mentioned in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book because your business was part of what built that model, which is such a pioneering mentality. And now we just take all of that for granted because so many are doing it, but you build on the shoulders of giants.
Of course. And we were all just failing our way forward, helping each other. Because back then, nobody had really stood up as the industry leader in training real estate until Gary did. And the beautiful thing is I would bring all my friends because I was so well connected. I would bring all my friends and say, I think this guy's onto something and he's really smart. And I'd bring him and we'd set him around a table and he would learn from them. And, you know, and I've learned a lot by watching what he did too. You know, just learning what people need, and they're going to tell you what they need if you'll just listen, right? And so, yeah, that's how he began to write the Red Book. And then he had the path beyond that. You know, he had that your real estate practice could actually be a business, not just a job, and it could be worth something. And so that's when he offered me an opportunity to go to Ohio Valley. I had a 200 transaction a year business. If I'd have kept, I just told my group this week, I did a challenge this week, and I said, look, you got to burn the boat sometimes, because if the boat is there, I've watched too many people get back in it. And if I had not already hired somebody, turned my business over to them to run it, and just knew they'd probably run it in the ground and I'd have to come back to nothing, and be willing to go learn this new big thing that I didn't know how to do. If I hadn't done that, I'd get back in that boat. I'd come back home and I'd think, God, selling real estate is so much easier than trying to talk all these people into opening a Keller Williams franchise when it was Keller who, right?
Right.
So, but I think because I had done that, and I just believed Gary. He said, look, here's the kind of person you're looking for. Here's their behavioral style. Here's probably their work background. And he nailed it. And when he said that, I thought of Brad. And Brad was looking to get out of the corporate world. He'd only sold real estate 8 months. It made no logical sense that he would be able to walk into a 200 transaction.
So you hired him before he was ready.
Yes. Again. Yeah. Again, I'm sure I could.
And I watch a lot of successful handoff.
Yes. I watch a lot of top people don't do that because they say they're not ready. So you got to be careful when you say they're not ready, because I've never met a person that stepped into a big role that said, you know what, I was totally ready for this role.
Yeah.
99% of the time they'll say, I was nowhere near ready. But it's, again, it creates that pressure. When you have a big commitment or a big goal, that pressure gets on that causes that sense of urgency to figure it out.
Well, and the truth is the reason that you're not ready is because you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So you don't have the reps.
You can't get ready.
You can't get ready until you actually do it.
No,
there's this cycle that if we don't ever step out encouraged before we're confident or borrow somebody else's confidence, we're always going to be stagnated. So many real estate agents and really entrepreneurs, I'm sure in any industry, they're incredibly successful producers. They know how to generate the revenue. They're building businesses and they're not leveraging through others. They don't have freedom in their life. The bigger they grow, the less freedom they have. I know one of the things you're very passionate about is helping entrepreneurs create freedom in their lives, create margin. Talk about that a little bit to the producer that is really stuck and feels almost trapped in what they've built.
A very impactful thing that Keller said to Jimmy and I one day at a mastermind, it was just one of those pivotal moments. It was kind of a wake-up call. We had been hiring people, but he looked at us and said, you know the difference between you guys and myself? And I'm thinking, maybe some zeros, probably quite a few zeros. And he said, no, while you were choosing to master investment properties, I was choosing to master people. And that was a wake-up call that there is a mastery level of people. Now, by the way, I don't think you're ever going to get there because people still surprise you. They disappoint you. Love them anyway. It's a whole thing. They ask me all the time. But there is a level that if you can get to yourself personally to be the kind of leader and to attract the kind of people that you would attract by becoming a master of people and making your world big enough to attract those people, that it's so fun. It's so cool. It's so much easier than you being the one to constantly have to go back in there and do it. That's 2X. And that's not 10X, right? Yeah. And so that was my wake-up call that, okay, I'm not playing the people game at a high enough level. And I still get convicted all the time, like how much my calendar, Linda, really is looking for people. I do kind of always look out of the corner of my eye, even though they don't know I'm looking at them.
Sure.
But I think if it's your number one thing, you could open your calendar and say, well, how much am I really doing it? And then the other thing is I've seen people actually be able to attract great talent, but they don't make their world big enough for that person to get what they want. Yeah. And I wouldn't have stayed where I stayed for so long if I wasn't able to get what I want. Most people are going to go somewhere else if they can't see how they can get their world bigger too.
Right. So what does it look like to go on an intentional leadership journey? how does that show up besides reading books? And, how does somebody take their leadership lid and 10x it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of you're working on yourself, to be honest with you. I think it's not natural, thank God, because I wasn't born with it.
Yeah.
I'm a high driver. Nobody ever does it fast enough, good enough, or my way.
Yeah.
And thank God I've had coaches and mentors in my life to say, do you want that job or do you want them to have it? I'm like, well, I just kind of was, want them to do it the way I want them to do it. He said, no, that's not what talent does. They do it and get the results. And that's really what you care about. And that was a big blessing to hear that out from someone because and I think ego and wanting to be the king and queen of something keeps you from bringing in talented people that are better than you, that can do whatever it is you need to get accomplished. So I think you have to work on yourself first because the me in the past really failed my way forward with people because I'm pretty intense. I can be pretty intense. I don't mean anything by it, and I think people can see my heart anyway, but that doesn't always work like that, right? And so, and then I had to make it more about their goals because nobody wants to, I have a new house we're remodeling in Montana and not one single one of my persons says, you know what, I'm going to work harder because I want you to have that house in Montana. But they may want a house in Montana or they may want a lake house somewhere. And so learning to really say, okay, number one, how I got to keep growing because if I'm not growing, how am I going to get them to grow? And then how am I going to keep making a world big enough so they can keep dreaming big and they can not see what they want to accomplish outside of me. And I think you got to do a lot of inner work to become that person. Maybe some people are natural. I think maybe some people do have more natural tendencies, but I had to do a lot of work on myself to be able to be that person. And I also had to learn where can I be in the leadership, world. In other words, I can't be at 1,000 feet. I'm not a great leader there. But you put me at 30,000 feet, I'm a great leader there. And so this is what I say to Dana all the time. You can't, the hard part's at 1,000. Get out of the 1,000.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is learning. That's why we have different roles inside of KW. That's why you're a team leader and I'm not.
Yeah.
That's why, so.
Are you familiar with Working Genius?
A little bit. I have one.
Okay.
But I'm not as familiar as I should be.
So, well, no. I mean, I love the Working Genius model because one of the things it talks about is in the 6 geniuses of work.
Yeah.
You have 2 that you're a genius, 2 that's a competency, and 2 that's a frustration. But he explains how the elevations. So the 2 geniuses, for instance, of wonder and invention are your 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
And then you have your middle 2, which is your activation phase, and then the bottom phase, which is your implementation phase. My geniuses are right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I have always felt uncomfortable in both 30,000 and 1,000.
Yeah.
And so it was the most revelatory assessment for me. But you're so right. Because of the different elevations, there's different kinds of leadership that's required in those different elevations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I want to talk fierce conversations.
Yes. Okay.
Because I have taken that class from you. It's been many years now.
Yes.
I want to say it's maybe been 10 years.
Too long, probably. We all need it.
I was going to say, we probably need to have a fierce conversation about having fierce conversations taught. It's a great book.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal book. Fierce conversations are a huge part of leadership.
Yes.
Talk about how leaders need to, what is a fierce conversation? Define it in case somebody hasn't read the book.
Well, to be honest with you, then fierce conversation to me is just it's going to the heart of the matter of what needs to be talked about. It's also doing the hard stuff first. And it's caring enough about people that if there is a behavior that needs to be changed, then you care enough about the person to step into the conversation. And fierce conversation teaches you how to do that so that the relationship has a chance to be enriched, not tore down. And honestly, when I talked about something to work on myself, it was a great tool for me because I just go at it as direct as possible. And that's not always necessarily the best way. And then, if people respond a certain way, my tone's going to get higher. I'm more emotional about it. And just learning, okay, this is normal for them to deny, defend, deflect when you have these kind of conversations with them. So how do I help that not happen? How do I stay as clear and concise as I can? And just understanding the importance of any conversation you're having is the relationship. And so sometimes it's the missing ones that are causing us the most trouble that we're not having or we're afraid to have or it's Friday, I don't want to ruin this weekend. So
I would say that thing that happens after 3:30. Nobody's calling to tell you you're doing a great job if they call you after 3:30 on a Friday.
Yeah. So to me, it's just there's several pivotal things that when I heard her speak at our conference years and years ago, before I ever even became a certified trainer in it, I had a conversation. Immediately it came to my mind. I'm like, I'm having it before this conference is over. So I would go practice in my room. In her fierce conversation, she does give you the confront conversation. There's so many more in the class. Sure. Great tools. But I was trying to memorize it. And even in my half-heartedness of learning it, I still managed to pull it off. And it worked magical. And then I was sold. And I'm like, I have to become an instructor of this. Because, once you teach something, you learn it at even a deeper level. And so I try to go at the things that I need the most.
So what would be the biggest takeaway out of fierce conversations for maybe that leader who's avoiding a conversation or hesitant to have the hard conversation, not running to the problem, that type of thing? What would be the best framework or piece of advice on that?
I would say that's pretty selfish, because that's probably more about your fears of not being liked, or you've gone over in your head, well, I'm going to say this and they're going to say that. No, yeah, see, look, they're going to say that and it's not going to be good, right? And you've already planned it out in your head. And just have the confidence that if you learn to do it the right way, it could be the best conversation anyone is ever willing to have with them. And I have seen that happen. But, and if it doesn't go well, and you've done everything you possibly can to follow the model of how to do it correctly, it's really more about them. They're not ready to learn this part, but I'm going to venture to bet they're going to get to visit again somewhere else, right? Yeah. But to care enough about them, and only keep people in your world that you care enough about to have that kind of conversation with.
Well, it's really part of people development.
Yes.
I also think sometimes somebody's first reaction is not their last. Meaning, you may not think it went well, and then they come back around and appreciate that kind of candor, that kind of conversation.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. I want to ask you about blind spots in leadership. Because we all have blind spots.
Yes.
But the very nature of a blind spot is that you don't see the blind spot. So how do you determine your blind spots, find them? How do you, as a leader, make sure that we're not just running with a bunch of blind spots?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Well, I think something's not working is probably pointing out a blind spot.
That's
you know what I mean? Maybe I'm having a lot of turnover. So I might want to point the fingers back at me. You know, the one common denominator is me. Or maybe my skill in bringing in the right people. I don't know, somewhere there. And I always have a tendency to look inside first. I remember saying by Wayne Dyer years ago that he was saying that sometimes people, what they lost the key in the house, but they're out in the yard looking around at it, looking for it, right? Yeah. So almost always ask, I wonder what my DNA in this is. I wonder if there's a skill or something I could get better at. And I always hate it when I get confronted with it, but I love it too, because once I'm confronted with it, it's I say sorry a lot, and especially for certain behaviors, I really have to say sorry a lot, and I'm just okay to say sorry. Yeah. And if I know this, if they know my heart, I'll have more grace to learn and work through those blind spots. But if they don't really know my heart and they don't feel my heart, I'm probably going to lose some good people because of blind spots.
And then you're modeling for them. It becomes a culture where you can apologize and fail forward and say that.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay, let's shift a little bit to wealth building.
Yes.
So you had set the goal of 20 investment properties while you were still in debt.
Yes.
And how many do you own now, investment properties?
We still hold, just a single family. We own 60. We just sold 25 of our vacation rentals.
Okay.
Built-in vacation retreats. We did have 34 of those.
Okay.
But we do have an RV park now. And I think it has 52 spots, but I'm not sure how many RVs are right now. They come in.
Like the number is growing and changing as you're...
The good thing about an RV park is they bring their house and they leave.
And they leave.
Yeah.
Let us to do the repair.
Nobody leaves their house for us to do anything.
Amazing. Okay. So talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah.
How did your mindset have to shift to go from being in debt and trying to pay the bills to saying we're going to build wealth and we're going to move forward with this?
And really the best part about that whole story, Theresa, and this is what I try to teach my people, is if you put yourself under enough pressure, and we were under pressure, the ways to get there will show up. And mine, for me, it's my sleep. I don't know. I think God gives me, I have a little sign on my mantle that says, give it to God and go to sleep. And I truly believe he gives me the answers. And I wake up with people's names on my mind. And there was so much pressure. And I went and found an investment deal while we were still $600,000 in debt. And when I found it, I came home and Jimmy immediately started reminding me that we couldn't get credit and we had no money.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And he wasn't wrong.
And he wasn't wrong. I didn't want to hear it, but he wasn't wrong. And so I go to sleep and I wake up that morning with my Lou Craft, my wonderful, sweet builder that I had worked so hard to earn his trust and work for him. I said, I think he'll do it with me. And sure enough, I went to him and said, Lou, I think we can sell this house. Now, back then, $15,000 was a lot of money. When you're $600,000 in debt, 15's going the right direction, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, if you'll do it, I don't have anything but my commission. That's all I have to throw in. But would you partner with me and let's do this? And he said, absolutely. And I said, we'll even pay you, some for fixing it up or doing whatever, and then we'll sell it. So sure enough, when we sold that property, because we were still in this bad economy in Texas, there were properties by the RTC, which were savings and loans foreclosures, and savings and loans companies were struggling. It came up on the market the day we sold that house for exactly, by University of North Texas, $15,000. So one of my friends called me and said, hey, this house is $15,000. I know you want to try to buy some real estate. So we took Lou over there and he looked at it and said, I think I can make this a fourplex. And that fourplex today makes us more money than Jimmy's.
You still have it?
We still have it. Yeah. We bought one more with Lou.
That's really
before
cool.
we could start buying stuff on our own. And when we split up our partnership, we said, look, we have two houses. We wouldn't be where we are without you. You pick which house you want. We'll take whichever one you don't want. So he picked one by Texas Women's University.
Okay.
Left us with the very first one that we bought together. And, the lesson I always tell people in this is the money is there somewhere. When the motivation, the drive is deep enough, the answer is there. You're not putting enough pressure on yourself to find that answer. And that pressure, unfortunately, was put onto us by God and the world and the lessons we needed to learn. But you could do this to yourself. You could set bigger goals that create pressure and shorten your timeline on when to get them so that you have that pressure. But it just taught me that you can find the money if you really want to. You're either driving it, wearing it, living in it, or somebody else has it.
Driving it, living in it, wearing it, or somebody else has it.
Or eating it. There's another one. You're eating it, because we eat out a lot. And so the money's there. You know what I mean? And
that was a very courageous conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that had to have you, you're a pretty gutsy person, but you had to have a few butterflies going in after that kind of partnership. I mean, that's very bold.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many things that start with courage.
Yeah.
And we underestimate just those courageous acts.
Oh, so true. And the truth is, you got to do a lot of things with the fear. And I think people keep waiting for the fear to go away.
It doesn't ever go away.
Oh, it doesn't. Because the more you set bigger goals and have bigger dreams, fears are going to come up. And that's just kind of part of it. I always say it's funny because I think God wired us in such a way that we're humanly wired to achieve more, but our brain is wired to protect us and keep us from doing more. So it's kind of a constant battle that we're always going to have. And we just learned, there was a great book years ago called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it's just so true. And what I tell people in my challenge is, here's the thing, the fear goes away in the action. Yeah. But it doesn't go away until you start taking action. Yes. And we kind of want to wait for that to subside or go away and then take some action. But take the action and then your fear will subside.
Well, science of scaling, 10x is greater than 2x, idea of holistic time and how the big goals pull the present into the future, the future into the present.
Yes.
And I think that's such a powerful concept with fear, because fear is never present. It's always fear of what happened before or what could possibly happen in the future. It's never actually what's happening in the moment.
That's true. It's just an illusion.
It's an illusion.
Yeah.
And yet it's so very real and paralyzing. Okay. So you have made tremendous income through profit share at Keller Williams. And I do want to spend just a moment talking about that, because there is a definite theme as we're talking about. You started saying you always look for the who.
Yeah.
And even looking at how you had the money for that investment property, it was because you had a relationship that you had already invested in. You had already created some influence because of your integrity and your character and all of that. Somebody saw something in you when they took you to the conference. All of that is relationship. And profit share is really an example of how your relationship has created amazing passive income. So if somebody's listening and doesn't know what profit share is with Keller Williams, it is a sharing back. Every franchise is independently owned and operated, and our owners share back profits
Yes.
with the associates that help us grow.
Yes. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing. Yeah.
And share just a little bit, and maybe specifically around your model around influence, because that is how you've done it. I know it's not been through a bunch of cold calling and that kind of thing. It's been because of relationships.
Yeah, for sure, without a doubt. And that's all it is, quite honestly. And I think once people get out of their head that it's a recruiting script or what I know how to say or, how to convince somebody, it's not any of that, which no sales really is. Even selling houses is not that. It truly is about a relationship and how do I get in relationship with somebody? And if your life's been changed, if I really believe in something, I think part of my what I would like to call unique ability or talent DNA, as we call it in our challenge, is that when I believe in something and I believe it's the best for that person, then I can usually win people over. But I don't sell them on it, right? I help them self-discover that what you're wanting, I think you can get right here, right? And so I always say to everybody, look, if your life's been changed, why wouldn't you want to go change some more? I mean, who are we to decide that's enough life change, right? This is an amazing company, and lives are being changed every day. They have to do their part, but the tools are there. They at least don't have to go make them up as they go. So I think if you just hurry and switch that to, I love changing lives no matter what I'm doing. And so for me, this is a no-brainer because people have needs and I know that this company can fill those needs. And so all I got to do is get in relationship with them enough. And I always say people don't do what we tell them. They only do what they self-discover. And the greatest ways to get anybody, kids, spouse, your buyers and sellers, your recruits, whoever, is to get them to self-discover. Ask great questions that makes them think about everything. Great stories that they can see themselves in or experientially, and that's the best. So meaning we have a great red day, but could you try to explain that to somebody? I always say from the outside looking in, we're hard to understand, and from the inside looking out, we're hard to explain. So don't try. Take them.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you explain Red Day if there's somebody that's really involved in their community and you took them to Red Day? You wouldn't have to say another word. Experientially, they would understand us so much better than me trying to explain it to them. So it's really that simple. And I just, I always believe relationships are important. And I think in the real estate industry, there are some trainers out there that kind of make you believe that if that person wins, you lose. And I've just never believed that. I believe there's plenty for both of us. And if we will get together and help each other, we're both going to win probably even bigger. And so you have to have that mindset too. You can't be afraid that, someone's going to do better than you. And so not, or you think that they don't have any needs. That's just not true. Everybody has a need. They may look perfectly put together on the outside, but maybe they're not building wealth. Maybe they're very successful in sales, but they haven't learned about building wealth.
Yeah.
So there's always a need.
So good. So you were a story in the book, 10X is greater than 2X. And I knew this before we started, though. I said, okay, how did that happen? That is so amazing.
I'm still asking that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about that. And then I want to hear about the challenge that you're doing with 10X is greater than 2X, because you have talked about that concept all throughout this interview.
And it's honestly, it's a secret weapon. And, it's kind of one of those things but it's built on a lot of science. And I love things that are built on science. It's like when I got into real estate and I realized, okay, if you do this enough times, you're going to get this, and then you're going to get this, So I like that kind of stuff because it's not based on somebody's having extra talent or being luckier, all those things. And so, honestly, I really don't know how they got my information about the stories. I guess enough people knew what I'd accomplished, but I got a call from Ben to set up an interview. I had no idea whether my story would have enough 10X jumps in it, but they called me back and said that they wanted to use the story in the book. And so, it's been a blessing because, number one, I love Dan Sullivan. I think he's one of the brightest thought leaders in the world, and I think his program is phenomenal. And I love Ben Hardy. He's just one of my favorites. He's such a great thinker, and I love to be around people. They're both probably simplifiers, and I'm a multiplier. And so I love it when people can take, and Gary's probably a simplifier too. I love it when they can take something that feels so big and so confusing and they can scale it down to just something so simple.
So good.
And the greatest blessing for me to be interviewed in the book is it made me look back, because we only see our progress when we look back at it. And was how many times I had actually 10X'd. First one by accident life gave it to me.
Yeah.
And my solution was to set 10X goals and get out of it.
Uh-huh.
And then to start connecting the dots that actually is a good strategy and plan to build the biggest life possible. And so now my passion around the challenge is I want people to understand, number one, what complacency is actually costing. And we're in such a world of comfort. I try to make everything comfortable. I want my gym only this far. I want my favorite place to go eat just this far. I want my stretch person this far. We work hard to make our life comfortable, and everything is set up to make it comfortable. But what we really should start to recognize, and I see this so much in the industry right now, people are complacent and they don't know what to do about it. And they haven't registered in their mind what it's actually costing them. And it's actually costing them not just getting more in their goals, but transforming them into the person that could achieve more or become more. And so I've just really had a passion, especially in our industry, because I'm seeing it so much. It's called burnout. It's called stuck. It's called complacent. Put in any of those names on it.
How do you recognize when you're complacent?
I don't think you just, something's missing and you don't know what it is. And it's not that you're not successful. That's the problem. See, our first one was a big failure, and that woke me up. These are not that. They're just moments in your life when you've actually already probably made big commitments and gone through all the stages of having to have the courage, getting the capabilities that you didn't have to start out with, which is what causes the fear, to be honest with you. And then getting a whole new level of confidence and comfort, and then moving to complacency, and then not waking up to realize it's costing. It's costing something, and time is precious, and we only have so much of it, right? One of the greatest things Gary ever told me, because I'm naturally an achiever, was, and I couldn't get people around me to understand it, and they wanted to say, why do you always have to achieve more, all those things? And then I would go try to get a recruit to want to achieve more, and they wouldn't want to. I was like, I'm so stuck here. And I said, I know the answer is simple, Gary, but I can't see it. I'm just in the middle of it. And he said, you know what, Linda, life is about becoming. And the way you become all that you can become while you're here is you get up every day and you go out in the world and see what else you can achieve. And if you think about it, it's through that trying to achieve that we become who we are right now, right? So if we want to become somebody different, we got to try other things, right? And so that helped me a lot, because there's sometimes a lot of people will have a negative feeling about wanting more or achieving. And they try to squash it down or push it away. And I think you should use it as a tool to say, okay, you know what? My happiest times is when I'm stretching for something that I don't really know how I'm going to get to, whatever, but I'm energized. I'm excited. I got passion. So I think it's stale. You're not dreaming again. So the business is really owning you instead of owning it. I think there's lots of clues. We're just ignoring them.
I've seen oftentimes in my own life and in people around me that we call something burnout when it's really boredom.
Yes, so true.
And we're just going through the motions and we think we're burned out. We think we're tired, and we actually aren't tired at all.
If you had something exciting.
We're underachieving.
If you had something exciting, all of a sudden.
The energy would come to life.
Yes.
100%. Okay, so talk about the specific challenge that you're doing. How can we get involved in the challenge? Talk about that.
Okay, so.
Are you going to knock us out of complacency, Linda?
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
We just finished one.
Okay.
We did it Monday through Thursday. We do 4 days. It's a 4-day challenge. The best way for them to find out when the next one is to go to my Instagram, which is at McKissack Linda. Okay. In the bio, there's always either a wait list. We are we just did our last one. We're going to wait a little bit because of the summertime. But we will be doing another one, and then we're going to continue to do them. Probably once a quarter we'll do them.
Okay.
We've done 3 so far. I love it because the people that show up on the Monday, they're a different person on Thursday, and it's so fun.
They must all show up scared on Monday.
Oh, they are, and they're not. Some of them, sometimes their OP told them to go, and they don't even know why they're there.
Oh, my.
Those are the best.
Yeah.
The OP saw that they were kind of stagnant, and they didn't even see it yet.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fun, and I love people who want to achieve more. I love being around people who want the biggest life possible, and so it's fun for me, and it gives me energy to do it. Jimmy hates it because I wake up at 4 every morning, start working because I so want to bring value. I don't want anybody to feel like they either wasted their time or their little bit of money that they spent for the challenge. I don't want them to ever feel like that. So it's a very stressful week for me. Zoe and I just go on Thursday afternoon when it's over. But it's awesome. And again, it's an example of if you do something, because people started calling me in November because they were reading the book, I guess, massively, and saying, "Could you help me?" And I was giving them an hour, each one an hour. And I thought, I can't do this like this. So that forced us to go learn something, which I had no idea. I don't know how to do a challenge. I know how to travel around the world and teach people, but I don't know how to teach them online.
Yeah.
So it put me in the same spot I'm now putting them in. I'm giving myself something big. So first thing I did, went and hired a coach that I felt that I liked his style, I liked his integrity, I liked his values. I'm like, okay, I could, if this is what I have to do this to help people, I can do that. And so I did exactly what I tell him to do. Who's the who that could teach you this a lot quicker? Because we set our date even before we even had the material completely put together to if it would work.
Yeah.
All the things. Terrifying. I always say you want excited and terrifying, but not one without the other. Because exciting is just going to go away. Terrifying is not fun at all.
No doubt about it. That's, yeah. Okay, give us your best book recommendations. I mean, obviously, I think we're going to talk 10X is greater than 2Ls. Oh, and I like always from them.
I always hate to say that one because my story's in there and they're like, oh, yeah, right. But it is a great book, so please don't miss it.
Millionaire Real Estate Agent book.
But also, Who Not How. I love Dan Sullivan and Ben together. I think
that's a great
wonderful combination. I love all of Ben's book. Gap in the Gain is a great one because most entrepreneurs live more in the gap and we don't look back at our progress enough. I said the first time I had to do that exercise, we had written the best-selling book Hold and forgot about it 90 days prior. And we'd already taken it off our list, forgot, didn't even think about it, right? So that's what we do, right? And there's so much value in looking back at how much you have already accomplished to give you confidence to go do it again. But I'd say Who Not How, Be Your Future Self Now by Ben is one of my favorites. I love it. Gosh, I have so many great books right now. Right now, Dana and I are reviewing on our podcast Chris Hodges' Legacy Letters, and they're so good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there's just not enough. There's so many books and not enough time.
Agreed. Chris Hodges, I found this out that Dana is friends with Pastor Daniel Floyd, who pastors my church.
Oh.
He's here, yeah.
Oh, yeah, she just
You're lovely.
I love Josh Howerton that's here.
Okay,
local. I've not been to his church. I go to Matt Chandler, who's amazing too.
Of course, yeah.
But she was just telling me you got to go over to his church. So I might just pop in one Sunday.
Okay, well, yes. Text me. I'll send you a seat. Okay, just quick lightning round.
Okay.
What is the non-negotiable in your morning routine? Okay. Besides like brushing your teeth.
Okay. Well, okay. So honestly, something I've started about a year and a half ago, because I always have this saying, if I was going to do something, I would have already, especially if it's a real important thing. So how can I get myself to do it? And I just would not pick the Bible up and read it. And if I did, I was like, I don't understand a word it's saying, but I need to build my faith. And so a year and a half ago, I get up, first thing I get up, and I usually get about 4 or 5, mostly 5 unless the challenge is going on. And the first thing I do, even on the week I have a challenge when I feel like I should just go to something, I will open up either Pastor Josh Howerton, Matt Chandler, or Chris Hodges, and I will watch on higher speed.
Okay.
Because I only have so much time, and I listen. Yeah. I learn better when I listen faster. One of their sermons or one of their podcasts.
I love it.
That's a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Okay, so good. What one word describes your relationship with money now versus 5 years ago? Or not 5 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah, now I'm going to say it's a tool. Before I would have been like panicked, I need it. And I also would say the word value, because I believe if you bring enough value to the world, you can't keep the money away. So focus on the value and the money will show up.
So good. What is the biggest lie entrepreneurs tell themselves?
It's good enough.
Ooh. What are you most excited about in your life right now?
Well, the challenge has got me pretty revved. And I have to tell you, I love all things health and wellness.
Okay.
And we have just finally gotten to the end of a year and a half remodel of a house we have in Whitefish, Montana. And I have made a spa room. You're going to have to come visit me. It's got a Phoenix sauna, a walk-in cold plunge, and a hyperbaric chamber. And I cannot.
You are fancy.
I'm fancy. And I'm going to invite a bunch of friends to be fancy with me to come there.
I'd be excited about that too. I would be excited about that. Okay. Leave everybody. What's the one thing you want to leave everyone with today? I thought.
Yeah, I would just say, you know what? The success and the stuff that you have right now is from the person you are right now. And the way you make your present better is to make your future bigger. And that Dan Sullivan says it all the time.
Say that again.
Okay, the way you make your present better is to make your future bigger.
Good.
You know what I mean? And I always say when your future is bright enough and big enough, you'll let go of what's great right now. Sometimes what we have is really, really good. And so it's really hard because we think we're either going to give up something or we're going to ruin our reputation or whatever to let go of it so that we can get that. And you can't hold on to all of it. Something has to be let go to get this bigger thing that you want. That's probably more than one thing, but kind of fits the same.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for being on with me. What a privilege.
Dana said it was fun, so I couldn't wait.
She was amazing. Her episode drops. We're recording this a few days before her episode drops.
Good.
And so we'll have, this one will drop soon. But thank you for just investing into our company.
Yes.
Because you have affected so many lives because of that. I'm just honored to know you and that you take time to be with us today. So as always, be sure to invest in your personal growth every single day because it will yield you great returns. Go to TheResaFlood.com to subscribe and be sure to follow Linda, McKissack Linda.
That's right.
On Instagram, and you can find out all of the things. She is worth the follow, and we'll get you information about her upcoming challenge if you want to get out of complacency as well. So, as always, keep living on the upside. See you next week.